companies are having to change their business strategies faster than they ever thought before. They're having to throw out the rule book faster than they've ever had to do before. And they're having to contemplate the unthinkable in various different ways to make their businesses competitive. The CEOs of the biggest and best companies in the world are sitting down thinking, this is my new reality. So what do I do to deal with that? How do I take on board the changes, for example, that are coming with AI? Where, in the next 6 months, we're going to see more change in the way predictive technologies are able to advance companies than we've seen perhaps in the history of humankind. And so how do you do that in a way that makes your business commercially more attractive to those with whom you do business? So these are some of the things that we're trying to help these CEOs and companies figure out, whether they need to buy things to enable to make that happen, shed whole parts of their businesses that previously they didn't even contemplate shedding, cut costs and redirect capital in areas that they previously didn't think about, spin off businesses that they perhaps previously didn't think were of interest to the market, but all of a sudden have become interesting, and change their entire go-to-market strategy. Because digitization, AI, predictive technologies, and all the things that go with that are now becoming central fulcrum around which many of these businesses are being built. Proactive business strategies today are all about having a willingness to tear up the rule book, tear up the strategic plan, tear up the assumptions that you previously had, and sort of hold it up to a new light and say, something different happened here in the last 24 to 36 months. And it's been all that we could do as a world to just survive and get through COVID and make sure that businesses continue to function. And, not to generalize the entire world and 9 billion people, but I think the world did a pretty good job of surviving during that period. What's happened, however, is that it's given people the opportunity to sit back and think about different ways of doing work such that they never go back to doing it the way pre-COVID. And of course, what's happened with the enablement of AI and the predictive technologies that exist now today and are emerging literally by the day and by the moment, is that when you put those things together and you align them alongside a company's business imperatives and what they do for a living and how they make money, they're all having to think about new ways of doing that while also adhering to some of the fundamentals of what their customers want. So I find this whole concept fascinating. I find that the willingness and the curiosity of a particular CEO or leadership team to embrace that change differs depending on the company, differs depending on the history and culture of the business, the industry that they're in. But more than anything else, I think you're going to see certain companies wait to see what happens. Certain companies try to get ahead of what's happening. And I believe the companies that try to get ahead of it are the ones that are going to win in the long run. There's probably never been more activist activity than there is today, because there's never been more dislocation than there is today. So that means there's a huge amount of capital willing to push companies to do things that perhaps they don't think they need to do or don't want to do, and perhaps they're right about that, but at least that's happening. It's never been a better time to be a buyer if you're in the private equity space. It's never been a more difficult time to be in business if you're a really small company looking for access to liquidity and debt, because interest rates are higher than we would like and higher than we've been used to for the last 10 to 15 years. So there's a complex brew of stuff going on that makes the world very, very complicated. I think that over the next 12 to 18 months, you're going to see a lot of that settle down in terms of a new normal. But I do think the pace of decision making is going to have to change in order for that to actually happen. And I think we're living through that right as we speak. I think it's fascinating to watch how companies have to adopt, and those who are willing to do so and those who are not. And as I've said before, I think those who are willing to adopt a faster rate of change, a willingness to take more risk, a willingness to use more technological advancement in how they make their decisions, a willingness to show more flexibility in how they get to the end goal that they're looking to get to, those companies are going to succeed faster than those who are not.